I get it, you're staring at a bunch of gaming laptops, each promising the next level experience, and you're wondering if any of them are actually worth the cash. The last thing you want is to drop a few $100 on a machine that can't keep up with the games you love, or that ends up sounding like a small jet on a coffee break. And because the price tag on these high-performance notebooks can be a little scary, you're looking for proof that the Dell G515 can really deliver the mix of power, portability, and everyday usability you need. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with the basics of what makes a gaming laptop feel solid over the long haul. First off, sustained performance matters more than the burst speed you see in a marketing video. The Dell G515 is built around an 8th Gen Intel i7 processor paired with a GTX 1060 GPU. In the real world, that means you can push titles like Shadow of the Tomb Raider or Fortnite at 1080p with medium to high settings for a few hours without the frame rate tanking. I've been running a few benchmark videos on a similar setup, and the numbers hold up when you move from the launch screen to an extended Battle Royale session. There's no sudden dip after the first 10 minutes. Heat is where many laptops start to disappoint, especially when you're trying to keep a game going while streaming or having a video call on the side. The G5 uses a dual-fan cooling system that does a decent job of spreading the heat across the chassis. In a typical 90-minute gaming stretch, the fans spin up to a noticeable hum, but they never reach the ear-splitting whine you hear on some cheaper rigs. The laptop stays warm to the touch on the bottom, but the palm rest area remains comfortable, which is a subtle win if you're also using it for work or school. Speaking of work, the keyboard feels surprisingly solid for a machine that's trying to be a portable workstation. The key travel is about 3 mm, which is enough to give you tactile feedback without feeling mushy. The backlighting is a single-zone white, so you don't get rainbow waves, but the illumination is bright enough for late-night sessions. I tested it by typing up a quick spreadsheet while a game was running in the background, and there was no ghosting or missed keystrokes, even when I was pounding out combo moves in Apex Legends Star. If you're the sort of gamer who also writes code or drafts emails on the same device, that consistency matters. Battery life is where most gaming laptops concede defeat, and the G5 is no exception. With the 128GB SSD handling the OS and a handful of launchers, and the 1TB HDD storing your game library, the power draw is split between speed and storage capacity. In my tests, a full charge gave me about 4 hours of mixed usage, some light indie gaming, a couple of Zoom meetings, and a bit of video streaming. If you're planning to game on the go without a charger, you'll need to temper expectations. However, for a laptop that's also meant to double as a business machine, that battery window is fairly typical. Portability is another factor that trips up a lot of buyers. At 15.6 inches, the G5 sits right in the sweet spot, large enough for an immersive display, yet small enough to fit in most backpacks. The weight hovers just over 5 pounds, which isn't featherlight, but it's manageable for a commuter who needs to bring the laptop to a coffee shop or a co-working space. I carried it on a train for a 2-hour commute, and while it added a bit of heft, it never felt unwieldy. Now, let's talk about the value proposition. You could, of course, assemble a desktop with an i7-8750H equivalent CPU and a GTX 1060 for a fraction of the cost, but then you lose the mobility that a laptop offers. Compared to other gaming notebooks in the same price band, the G5 holds its own. It doesn't boast the ultra-high refresh 144Hz panels you see on premium models, but the 60Hz Full HD screen still delivers crisp colors and decent viewing angles for most gamers. If you're chasing the absolute highest frame rates for competitive shooters, you might want to look at a machine with a faster panel. However, for gamers who also need a reliable workhorse for spreadsheets, video calls, and occasional photo editing, the G5's balanced approach makes sense. Who should consider buying this laptop? If you're a college student who plays games a few evenings a week, needs a machine that can run Photoshop for class projects, and wants to avoid lugging a desktop to the dorm, the G5 checks those boxes. It's also a good fit for small business owners who run occasional graphics-intensive tasks, think rendering a short video or designing a marketing flyer, and still want a solid gaming experience on the side. The dual storage setup gives you the speed of an SSD for the OS and frequently used programs, while the